So as far as the second chapter is concerned, the first 10 verses is a recap of the problem statement, and also what exactly we need to do when our intellect and when our skills, we feel that is not good enough to face the challenge in front of us. Because there could be times where we feel completely exhausted. So at that point of time, approach and surrender a friend or a master whom we trust, who can help us to move ahead. So Arjuna, in this particular case, who is a prototype of the entire humanity, he surrendered to Krishna and he started guiding him. So from the verse 11 to 30, Krishna gives argument, because the argument is not to fight the battle or not to fight the battle. The argument is your mental state, the symptoms you are expressing right now, that emotional breakdown is not good. So first get out of that emotional breakdown, then you decide what is the right course of action. So whatever is the external trigger, whatever is the circumstances, this emotional breakdown and moving your mind out of that threshold, right? That's not good. So that's the key message Krishna is addressing. And we saw that Krishna is addressing this topic from three different perspectives. The first perspective, where you need to have this emotional control and see things clearly from a spiritual perspective. Because from a spiritual perspective, it addresses the highest possibilities of sorrows. The greatest source of fear for anybody is the death. So that's why a spiritual solution is given. So in that spiritual solution, we have seen that the human system consists of three dimensions. Every jiva has three dimensions. One is the physical dimension. Second one is the subtle dimension, which we call as soul. And then there is a spiritual dimension called Atma. So essentially, our true nature is Atma. And there is the physical body is coming to an end at the time of the death. And the subtle body is going to transmigrate. This is what we have seen. And I got an interesting question. That's a brilliant question. Radhika, are you in the call? Before me answer that.
Yeah, Rajesh, I'm here.
Excellent. So Radhika has a great question. So the question, Radhika, if I recap correctly, otherwise please correct me if I'm wrong. I'll try to answer for your question. The question is, you talk about self-realization, you talked about Atma, you talked about the subtle body, you talked about the physical body. So who is gaining the moksha? Because the likes and dislikes are for the subtle body. So if the subtle body is gaining moksha, who am I? Who is the I we are referring to? Is that I subtle body? Is that I physical body? Or is that I Atma? Radhika, this was the gist of your question, right?
Right, that's it, Rajesh.
Interesting question. That is a brilliant question. The real answer is, who am I? That is the real search of the entire Gita. And in fact, Ramana Maharshi has a book, Who Am I? And the entire subject matter of all the Upanishads, all the Vedanta, all the spiritual studies is to understand who you are really. The problem is, there is a perceived self and there is an actual self. The perceived self is what? Because in Vedanta, they talk about two major problems. One problem is called identification, and the second problem is called attachment. Identification is what exactly is the entity with which you are identified with. For example, theoretically speaking, if you identify yourself with your home, imagine that is going to happen. Then what is the problem? Every problem of the home is my problem. Home is an absolute must-have thing for you to live. But home is different from you. It is an instrument, or it's a tool, or it's an equipment given to you for you to use. So suppose you identify with the gadget, suppose you identify with the tool, that's a problem. So for example, if you identify with your car, it's an expensive car. So any scratch in the car, otherwise it's a scratch, that something needs to be fixed. But if you identify yourself with the car, the scratch will be more problematic. And the end of the life of the car is going to be more problematic, rather than you think that it is your car. So that's why the identification and attachment. Attachment also is a problem, meaning over emotional dependency to anything is a problem. We know that. You all know that. Even the over emotional dependency with your own children and spouse is a problem. And most of the Indian parents suffers because of this emotional dependency with their children. Please note that this emotional dependency is not love. We are going to see that in the later chapter. What is emotional dependency versus what is love? We will see that. And you can definitely relate to each one of us, including myself. We can understand what exactly is our problem. So here the problem is, in our current state, our self-identity is predominantly, we think that we are the physical body and the subtle body. So let's take that same example. The good old example is the sun, the bucket of water, and the bucket of water, right? So if we identify ourselves with the bucket and or water, we think that the reflection is happening because of the bucket or water. What is going to happen? My problems are, when the bucket is coming to an end, I think that I am coming to an end. So the real identity, the real reflection is borrowed from the sun. So our actual identity is nothing but the Atma. Atma is our real identity. The one consciousness. So a couple of questions you asked in your question was, is Atma consciousness? Absolutely. The consciousness is Atma, because everything else has consciousness because it's a borrowed consciousness. So the same example, the actual light comes from the sun. What you see in the bucket is a reflection from the actual sun. So when you are conscious right now, that consciousness is borrowed from the Atma, the absolute consciousness. So the great scientist Max Planck, that's why he said, I regard consciousness as the fundamental, and I regard matter as a derivative of the consciousness. One more scientist, Erwin Schrödinger, I've been quoting him for the last few weeks. Erwin Schrödinger, who is the founder of the quantum mechanics, was fascinated by the study of the consciousness. What that one consciousness. So the consciousness, right now, each one of you are conscious, because you're conscious of what I'm talking, you're conscious of what you're hearing, you're conscious of the monitor in front of you, and you're conscious of the surroundings. And what exactly is that consciousness? That consciousness is a borrowed property from Atma. So the subtle body and the physical body are the tools and gadgets given to me, but the real me is Atma. But the fundamental problem is that, what is the problem? I get identified or misidentified or wrongly identified with these gadgets. When I get wrongly identified with the physical body and mind, what is going to happen? The physical body and mind are essential tools given to me for transacting with the world outside. So, but what happens? I just identified with the tool. Just like me identifying with my car, I identified with some other tools. So the focus of Vedanta is to shift your identity from your physical body, subtle body, to Atma. So Atma is the true I, and that's what it is. And if you remember, like I would suggest you to listen to one of our supplementary talk, which is there in our YouTube. Please refer the playlist called Supplementary Talk. There was a session we did. The title is Physical Body, Subtle Body, and Atma. In that particular talk, we analyzed the scenario in detail. So in that scenario, we said, like, there are multiple examples. Why we feel that our consciousness is limited to our body. The sentiency is limited to our body. That is because the nervous system. So we took some fictitious examples. Suppose we imagine that our nervous system extends to our clothes. What is going to happen? Then thereafterwards, what is going to happen? If somebody touches my cloth, I feel it. And we took some brilliant scientific discovery. One of the discovery, anybody remembering? What was that scientific discovery we used to refer this?
Phantom limb.
Exactly. So the phantom limbs is a classic example which tells you that the sensory experience is a projected, or it's a something that is created in your mind. So phantom limbs, it's a classical modern discovery which tells an amputated person feel that somebody touched his eyes. Means his I think hands or legs. You can Google it. So that's what it is. And second thing is the spatial appearance. Like I'm here, and everything else is separated. It is because of the place where these sensors are placed. For example, the position of your eyes gives you a perception that I am bound to this body. Imagine if the eyes are moved to some in the road. What is going to happen is when a car comes in, you may jump in, even though you look here. So this is a lot of experiments in the modern neurology has proved this fact. So the bottom line is the real identity is Atma, and our goal is to shift our identity to the true Atma, and then make sure that the problem of attachment is addressed. So this topic is going to come more and more in Gita, but for the time being, please understand that the problem means the real identity is Atma. But the problem is that is not in our direct experience right now. Even though I say this theoretically, it is only para aksha anubhuti. That is, it's not a direct experience. So this practices, whatever we have seen, I already prescribed what exactly is the initial practice for all of us. It is Karma Yoga and Upasana Yoga. You have to follow Karma Yoga and Upasana Yoga. And once you have two pre-qualifications, one is called the Chitta Shuddhi and the other one is called the Chitta Sthiti. You start experiencing these things. So follow that. It is going to be really good. So that is the question. And any such questions, please post. This is very interesting questions, good questions. So this was the first argument. And from a spiritual perspective, Krishna addressed the problem. Then what happened? Spiritual solution means some people may not be interested in the spiritual solution. There has to be another point of view also. So last week, we took a turn and we started explaining the whole scenario in a different perspective, which is the perspective of Dharma. What is to be done? So we introduced a term called Svadharma. So every individual has something called Svadharma. So we talked about two dharmas. One is Samanya Dharma and the other one is the specific Dharma, which you have to do. And then I made a very famous statement. It's not my statement, but it's a very famous statement in the scriptures, which tells that the quality of an apple tree is determined by the quality of the apple it produces. The quality of an orange tree is not determined by the quality of an apple in another tree, the quality of an orange tree. So the duty of a soldier is totally different from the duty of a doctor, which is totally different from the duty of a scientist. So when I conforms to my duty, and again we have seen using the scriptural words that these are not by birth. By birth, nobody can say that one is a soldier and the other one is a priest or another one is a laborer. Absolutely not. The two factors that is going to, the key factor is that is going to be determining what exactly is your Svadharma, is your, actually the work you do. Of course, even if whatever is your mindset, if you go as a soldier, you have to fight no matter what. Whether you are an ahimsavadi or not, then you cannot take that job. So karma is definitely one, and the second one is guna, the temperament. Nothing more. Janma is not a matter here. So guna and karma is going to determine your Svadharma, and it is important that you stick to your Svadharma. So if right now the time and place demands me for a program manager, I have to do it. Otherwise, I have to change it and then say that, okay, I'm not ready for it. But as long as I do that karma, perform that karma, I'm supposed to do that duty. So that's why Krishna said, from the Svadharma perspective, we took the example of a doctor or a nurse fighting for that Svadharma. If you perform your Svadharma, sometimes what happens, you may fail and you may die in that course. But when you are conforming to dharma, your karma will be good. And we talked about the entire law of karma earlier. So from a dharmic angle, when you follow the dharma rigorously, when you conform to dharma, and when you are executing the dharma properly, your adrishta will be always good. And that way, a better experience, you will get into better experience. This is what we saw last week. So from a spiritual perspective, you have to perform from a dharmic perspective, even if it is war. And we talked about so many examples. The war against Nazis, the war against Taliban, all the dharmic war, like the generals and the people, in that war, like what exactly is the dharma of a pilot who is supposed to fight in that Second World War against Nazis? His dharma is determined by how well he performed his duty. There is no doubt about it. And there is nothing in the world, if you can look at a lot of modern analysis or the management analysis on this subject, it coming to this angle. You cannot say that. I talked about this Aristotelian or the Western philosophy, which defines the good as, or the what is good as an absolute value. Means if you take the Vedanta, the supreme most virtue is ahimsa. Ahimsa paramo dharma. But what happens if, means how can a soldier practice it? His Svadharma, if that is contradicting it, means you may have to adjust it. So that's the beauty. So a culture which determines ahimsa as paramo dharma, sometimes you may have to defend for defending dharma itself, you have to follow what is to be done. So I quoted both Tirukural and Bhagavad, means Mahabharata, to illustrate that point. So Mahabharata tells, Dharmo Rakshati Rakshitaha. The one who protects dharma is protected by dharma. And in Tirukural, the famous verse is there, Dharmam Talai Kakum. The dharma will protect your head, meaning the dharma will protect yourself. That's what it is. So let's go to the third point of view. The third point of view is the worldly point of view. So the first argument was from a spiritual argument, which is from verse 11 to 30. And then from 30 to 31 to 33, we saw a dharmic, Svadharma perspective. And from 34 to 36, a worldly perspective is there. And then he is going to wind up this. And the two verses, he concludes the whole topic. And then he moves to the next topic. So this is how the flow. So let's listen to the next verse. So we saw that omission of dharma is a mistake. So let's go to the loss of honor, which is a worldly perspective. So Anu, if you could chant, that would be great.
Sure. Akirtim chapi bhutani kathayishyanti te vyayam sambhavitasya cha kirtihi maranadatirichyate.
Excellent verse. Akirtim chapi bhutani kathayishyanti te vyayam sambhavitasya cha kirtim maranad ati richyati. So what happens if you don't do what needs to be done in a society? For example, if you are a doctor, you are a doctor in a in a hospital, but when this corona came in, I'm afraid of my life. I'm running away from my life. I'm not going to the work at all. I'm just running away. What would be the result? Is that good for your fame, name? Is that good for your dignity as an individual? Think of this. Imagine, like there was a sub-collector means he ran away. He means how much disgrace he has brought to his family and the people. And imagine that if you are a soldier, you enjoyed all the perks, you enjoyed everything from the taxpayers to become that, and suddenly when you see the sign of a war, you resigned and ran away. Yes, of course you can do that. You have the freedom to do that, but it is not good. It will means you lose your honor. Akirtim chapi bhudani. What happens if you don't perform your Svadharma? If you don't perform what needs to be done, what happens? You will get disgrace. And what happens? Kathayishyanti te vyayam, and it will be forever, like this bad name. He's not a man of integrity. When a situation comes, he needs to be performed. At that time, he just ran away. That's not good for any one of us. Some people, like when the family problems comes in, they run away from the family. So it's easy to retreat from the duties. And some people find an easy escape route. Not modern days, but ancient days. What was that? Sannyasa. So there is a category of sannyasa called apat sannyasa. So the sannyasa, as I explained earlier, can be classified into three categories. One is called vidvat sannyasa. Second category is called vividisha sannyasa. And the third category is called apat sannyasa. Vidvat sannyasa means the self-realized master. They have achieved the goal and they leave the society truly to self. So that is vidvat sannyasa. Vividisha sannyasa means I have taken the lifestyle of a sannyasi, but I have not yet self-realized. I'm striving hard. I may fall down, I may strive. That's fine. 90%, 99% of the people you see following into that category. And the third category is apat sannyasi. When there is a problem in life, I just run away and take sannyasa. That is apat sannyasa. So this escape route is not what is Krishna advising here. I mean, he is advising here. He is saying that it is going to bring disgrace to you. And sambhavitasya cha kirtim. For honored people, people with integrity, people with value, for such people, this disgrace, like retreating out of fear from your duty, maranat atirichyati, like it is worse than your death. So why this argument is used? This is not a spiritual argument. This is not a dharmic argument. This is only a worldly argument. For some of us will be convinced only with this argument. So this argument is also used to say that you have to do what needs to be done. So there are two sentences. One he tells, also people will speak kathaishyanti, bhutani kathaishyanti, cha api bhutani kathaishyanti te avyayan akirtim. So people will start talking about your bad name. And then what is the problem? They are, no, I think that second sentence is wrong. So let me go here. And what is the problem? Sambhavitasya cha kirtim maranat atirichyate. So when they talk about this, what happens? For an honored person, when he loses the honor, it is even worse than the death. This is the point. So again, Krishna is discussing from the worldly point of view. This is nothing spiritual here, nothing dharmic here. It is purely worldly. And here the word bhutani refers to the fellow being. All the other people will start speaking all sorts of stories. And their imaginations would run wild and rumors will be spread. Actually, this fellow has not performed, etc. And this will bring a lot of dishonor to you and your family. So the question is, typically they say, right, in history, like all of you may have somebody in the family, like you will say that, okay, you look at that person in our family, you should be like that. So in every family or in every community, there are two categories of people, they say. One is a model and the second one is what? A warning. In every family, right? Don't be that like that uncle who drank and spoiled all the money. There will be somebody. So do you want to become a model or a warning in your society and family? That's what it is asked. So to a famous hero or a person with some integrity, this honor is supposed to be not the false honor, but when you've confirmed your integrity. Integrity means what? What is the definition of integrity by any means? Anybody knows? Integrity, the simple definition is when you perform what needs to be done when nobody else is observing you. That is one definition of integrity. In management, you can see. So there is, do you know, like this management theories, the modern management, they call the people management, they put into three categories. One is called theory X, second one is called theory Y, and theory Z. Anybody heard of this? Magesh, you might be heard of that, right? This one, this theory, like theory X, theory Y, and theory Z. Theory X means, yeah.
We read it while reading Maslow's theory of hierarchy, but I can't remember that exactly what this one is.
Yeah, that is different. This is different. This is theory X, theory Y, theory Z. Those who attended the PMP exam, this is a standard question in that. So theory X means you believe that people are they do not have any integrity. They need to be supervised always. Some 40 years back, 30 years back, that was the management style. But now in between, what happened? Theory Y came in. They think that people are means their integrity is very high. So you don't have to observe them at all. But what practically happening is now something called theory Z, which is in between. A minimal amount of supervision, but no micromanagement. So this is just, by the way, it's a diversion. So we'll come back. What I'm saying is that It's integrity. If you have integrity, means you don't want to run away from what needs to be done, no matter what. This is very important. And I personally believe in this. This is very important. Means if you are holding a responsible position, you need to behave in that position. Otherwise, you should not be in that position. So, in Mahabharata, there is a famous verse. The famous verse tells, Pranam vapi parityajya manam evapi rakshatu. Anityayo bhavati pranaha manastu achandatarakam. It means protect your honor, protect your merit, even at the cost of your life. Because what happened? The life is impermanent. You may live 100 years or you may live 50 years. But death is only once. But this manam or the honor, the name stays forever. We remember a Bhagat Singh now. We remember a Chandrasekhar Azad now. We remember a Khudiram Bose now. All these people died at the age of 20, 21, 22. Why? Because they preferred manam. Bhagat Singh could have easily apologized in front of the British and get away from that. But he thought, in fact, he quotes one of, I believe that is Chandrasekhar Azad, who quote this verse in Mahabharata. It tells, Pranam vapi parityajya manam evapi rakshatu. The Mahabharata has, means I'm reading Mahabharata right now, verse by verse. So that's why I'm saying like gems are coming out of it. Like there is a lot of gems. Wonderful, wonderful verses like this. Amazing. So that's very a side note. But the defamation, once it happened, it stays forever. There is one more story. Have you heard of a freedom fighter called C.R. Das, Deshabandhu Chittaranjan Das? Have you heard of him? Very famous freedom fighter. He was from Bengal. So he became a lawyer. When he became a lawyer, he got one case and he got some money. Again, these are all, when you read the history of our freedom struggle, it always, I feel that how much integrity these people had, like whether it is a Tilak or a Gandhiji or a Gokhale, even Nehru, or means leave all the political differences apart, all of us, right? Whether irrespective of all the parties, all these people had some integrity and their values. So this Das, C.R. Das, what he did was, one of his ancestors had a debt in the court. So when you die, like that was completely gone. Only thing is that his name was attached as insolvent. He didn't have to pay that. But the first thing, he was in starvation, but the first salary he got, he made sure that his ancestor's name is freed from that court record. Again, pranam vapi parityajya manam evapi rakshatu. So this type of example can be seen. Mahatma Gandhi, he used to do this a lot. But there is a word of caution. Some people take this false honor, right? If somebody married some outside caste, people used to kill. That's not what we are talking. That is not this manam. That is, in fact, they are bringing dishonor to themselves by doing such ridiculous act. So that's not the case. So the act they have to perform, it has to be in line with the dharma. As long as that is done, you have to protect your honor. And the protecting honor also should be through dharmic way. You cannot go and burn the other person's. Even in 21st century, even now it's happening, it's so sad. I was reading some incidents in Uti, that area, like this honor killing. Haryana, it is there. These things are shame to humanity. This is not, actually, in fact, I would call dishonor killing. By killing, they're just disowning themselves. So that's different. So here, Arjuna, means Krishna is addressing that when you perform a duty, if you run away from that, if you behave contrary to your integrity, it brings dishonor to you as well as the other family, and which is not good. Okay, so let's chant 35 and 36. Let me go here. I know if you can chant these two verses together. Again, So we talked about the dishonor, and now that there are two sources of dishonor, and let's talk about that. How the dishonor from means others are going to impact you. This is not very important verse, but let's just see that.
Do you want me to chant 35 and 36?
Correct, please.
भयाद्रणादु परतं मंस्यन्ते त्वां महारथाः येषां च त्वं बहुमतः भूत्वा यास्यसि लाघवम् अवाच्यवादांश्च बहून् वदिष्यन्ति तवाहिताः निन्दन्तस्तव सामर्थ्यं ततो दुःखतरं नु किम्.
Okay, so this two verses is very specific to Mahabharata battle. So Arjuna, imagine Arjuna, he was a warrior, he was fighting the Mahabharata battle, and the context is Krishna is saying that if you don't do what needs to be done, it is going to attract dishonor from other people. So if you are abstaining from the battle due to the fear, because even if you ran away because of other reasons, because of your sympathy, pity, people may think that you ran away from the battlefield because of fear. Bhayat ranat uparatam. You're running away from the battlefield because of fear. And then what happens? The great warriors is going to think, this is what the great warriors, the other people are going to think about you. And then what happened? Among all these esteemed people, like you will be taken as lightly. Everybody will say that everybody had performed your duty. Everybody had performed their duty, but one person just ran away. Even imagine, like in a modern world, like there is a terrorist operation is happening. Let's say that in Kashmir or in Iraq or in Afghanistan, like a group of soldiers are going. A couple of people say that, yeah, I'm afraid, I'm not going, or I'm not ready to do that. It will just definitely, what would be the other people feel about him? They feel that, okay, he is a light person, he's a chicken-hearted person, not fit for this job. And then what happens? As a result, people may speak a lot of unwanted things about you. Again, look at this. This is a worldly point of view. There is nothing spiritual, nothing dharmic here. And people will utter a lot of unwanted words, and they will doubt your abilities. And what a painful situation. Tato dukkataram tukim. What more is more painful than this? You are a capable person. You are an person with a lot of integrity, and people started thinking about you like this. It's a very painful situation. This is what Krishna tells. So let's see the word by sentence by sentence analysis. So Maharatha means the great warriors will consider you as having retreated from the battle due to fear. So Bhayat Ranat Uparatam Matsyate Twa Mahar. That is the first sentence. And the second sentence is like, and you having been so highly esteemed by them. So far, everybody thought that you are a man of integrity, you are a capable person, and when you do this act contrary to your nature, it is going to create a lot of dishonor for you. So the next verse he tells, and people starts speak, your enemies will talk a lot of unwanted things about you. And is there anything tu kim dukkataram tataha? Is there anything more painful than this? This is these three verses. Let's see the one more page. Loss of honor, like our intention may not be visible to other people. We may have retreated because of a real intent, but what happens is it will be totally misinterpreted, and wrong public perception will be created, and people will look down upon you. And if the people were looking down, if this happens because of a dharmic reason, because of a legitimate reason, there is nothing for you to worry, because then you don't have to care about other people's opinion. But if you're really done something wrong, if you're really retreating from something that is to be done, that's a problem. So this is what the third point of view. So once again, this is a worldly point of view. From a worldly point of view, when you retreat from what needs to be done, that creates a problem. So this concludes the third topic. So just one more quick summary, 2-line summary. The first topic was from a spiritual angle, from verse 11 to 30. And then the second argument was from a dharmic angle. And the third argument was from a like a worldly perspective. From a worldly perspective also, all of us have to do what needs to be done, our duties, our responsibilities. Any questions? Otherwise, Anu, I would request you to chant, if you could chant from verse 11 to 36, if you don't mind. Means this
Sure.
it's a ad hoc.
Yes.
Please listen to this. This would be really good if you can listen to this and just scan through the verses. And next week, please post any queries on this topic, because this is a major topic we completed. So any questions, please post. Once again, one more time. First 10 verses was a restatement of the problem. The verse 11 to 30 is mainly addressing of the problem from a spiritual angle. From that spiritual angle, there is a lot of topic we discussed. We discussed the nature of Atma. We discussed the nature of subtle body and in the physical body. And when at the time of death, who is dying, who is transmigrating, who is not changing. We have seen that. And we went through a lot of characteristics of Atma. Atma is Satyaha, Atma is Nityaha, Atma is Sarvagadaha, Atma is Sanatanaha. All those points we have seen. And our real identity is Atma we have seen. And we identified the Svadharma. And I strongly recommend you to think through that Svadharma idea. The Svadharma idea is fantastic. It's amazing. Like it fits within the modern day problem very well. And then we talked about this worldly angle. Even from a worldly angle, when you retreat from something from that needs to be done, it is going to attract a problem. Now, actually, the next 2 verses, Krishna concludes this entire topic and just in 2 verses, and then he just jump into the new topic. The new topic is, I explained the theory to you so far. But the theory, by listening to the theory, you will not get it. So how can you transfer yourself from your current state to this new proposed future state? So he introduced a technique, and that technique is named as yoga. So far, whatever we have covered is known as Samkhya, and what he is going to cover now is called yoga. This is the 2 major topic of the Bhagavad Gita, Brahma Vidya and Yoga Shastra. And whatever we covered so far is a glimpse of Brahma Vidya. And now we are going to do the how part. So far it's the what part, and now the how part is going to come. In the second chapter, it is briefly described. That is from verse 38 to 53. And from 54, Arjuna had a different question. So imagine that you get your future state correctly by practicing the yoga. Are you going to run away from the world? Are you going to be like a stone? The answer is no. You will be more active to the world. You will be more loving. You will be more caring, and you will be more smiling. That is the 18 verses of the end of the second chapter, which is known as Sthita Prajna Lakshana. So these are the different topics of the second chapter. First 10 verses, it is the worldly perspective. 11 to 30, it is the spiritual solution of the problem. Verse 31 to 33, dharmic solution. 33 to 36, the worldly angle of the problem. 36, 37 and 38, it is the recap. 38 to 53, it is the yoga. 54 to 72 is the Sthita Prajna Lakshana. This is the second chapter. So let's listen to the chanting from Anu, and from there we can take any couple of questions. Otherwise, we can then go to the next set of verses from next week.
Okay. Shri Bhagavanuvacha Ashochyananvashocastvam Prajnavadamscha bhashase Gatasunagatasumscha Nanushocanti panditaha Natvevaham chatunasam Natvam neme janadhipaha Nachaiva na bhavishyamaha Sarve vayamatah param देहिनोऽस्मिन् यथा देहे कौमारं यौवनं जरा तथा देहान्तरप्राप्तिः धीरस्तत्र न मुह्यति मात्रा स्पर्शास्तु कौन्तेय शीतोष्णसुखदुःखदाः आगमापायिनो नित्याः तां स्थितिक्षस्व भारत यं हि न व्यथयन्त्येते पुरुषं पुरुषर्षभ समदुःखसुखं धीरं सोऽमृतत्वाय कल्पते नासतो विद्यते भावः नाभावो विद्यते सतः उभयोरपि दृष्टोऽन्तः त्वनयोस्तत्त्वदर्शिभिः अविनाशि तु तद्विद्धिः येन सर्वमिदं ततं विनाशमव्ययस्यास्य न कश्चित् कर्तुमर्हति अन्तवन्त इमे देहाः नित्यस्योक्ताः शरीरिणः अनाशिनो प्रमेयस्य तस्माद्युध्यस्व भारत य एनं वेत्ति हन्तारं यश्चैनं मन्यते हतम् उभौ तौ न विजानीतः नायं हन्ति न हन्यते न जायते म्रियते वा कदाचित् नायं भूत्वा भविता वा न भूयः अजो नित्यः शाश्वतोऽयं पुराणः न हन्यते हन्यमाने शरीरे वेदा विनाशिनं नित्यं य एनमजमव्ययं कथं स पुरुषः पार्थ कं घातयति हन्तिकम् वासांसि जीर्णानि यथा विहाय नवानि गृह्णाति नरोपराणि तथा शरीराणि विहाय जीर्णानि अन्यानि संयाति नवानि देहि नैनं छिन्दन्ति शस्त्राणि नैनं दहति पावकः न चैनं क्लेदयन्त्यापः न शोषयति मारुतः अच्छेद्योऽयमदाह्योऽयम् अक्लेद्यो शोष्य एव च नित्यः सर्वगतस्थाणुः अचलोऽयं सनातनः अव्यक्तोऽयमचिन्त्योऽयम् अविकार्योऽयमुच्यते तस्मादेवं विदित्वैनं नानुशोचितुमर्हसि अथ चैनं नित्यजातं नित्यं वा मन्यसे मृतं तथापि त्वं महाबाहो नैवं शोचितुमर्हसि जातस्य हि ध्रुवो मृत्युः ध्रुवं जन्म मृतस्य च तस्मादपरिहार्येऽर्थे न त्वं शोचितुमर्हसि अव्यक्तादीनि भूतानि व्यक्तमध्यानि भारत अव्यक्तनिधनान्येव तत्र का परिदेवना आश्चर्यवत् पश्यति कश्चिदेनम् आश्चर्यवद्वदति तथैव चान्यः आश्चर्यवच्चैनमन्यः शृणोति श्रुत्वाप्येनं वेद न चैव कश्चित् देही नित्यमवध्योऽयं देहे सर्वस्य भारत तस्मात् सर्वाणि भूतानि न त्वं शोचितुमर्हसि स्वधर्ममपि चावेक्ष्य न विकम्पितुमर्हसि धर्म्याधियुद्धात् श्रेयोऽन्यत् क्षत्रियस्य न विद्यते यदृच्छया चोपपन्नं स्वर्गद्वारमपावृतं सुखिनः क्षत्रियाः पार्थ लभन्ते युद्धमीदृशम् अथ चेत्त्वमिमं धर्म्यं Sangramam na karishyasi tata Svadharmam kirtim cha hitva papam avapsyasi akirtim chapi bhutani kathayishyanti te vyayam sambhavitasya cha kirtihi maranadatirichyate bhayadranadu paratam mamsyante tvam maharathaha yesham chatvam bahumataha bhutva yasyasi laghavam avachyavadamscha bahun vadishyanti tavahitaha nindantastava samarthyam tato dukkataram nukim.
Beautiful. Excellent job.
Thank you.
I think you should teach those who are interested to chant. I know that some people are interested.
Yeah, thanks, Rajesh. I was about to ask that actually.
Yeah, and I know. Can you teach some people
Yeah.
who are interested to chant? I'm sure you
Yes.
can do that.
Yes. We'll work it out, Rajesh. Sure.
Yeah, please, because I think I told you this beginning of the second chapter. Actually, very recently I listened to a couple of chanting by Anu, and actually she studied with some organization called Yoga Sangeeta. It is initiated by Ganapati Sachidananda Swamiji, Datta Peetha. So they have a massive mission of training people chanting in Bhagavad Gita. It's amazing to see a lot of kids chanting Bhagavad Gita without any mistake. And if you ask, like, second chapter, 53rd verse, they chant. It's that thorough is their teaching. So, and I was listening to this teaching, and second chapter and all, since I do these classes, this meaning is on my head. So with that meaning, when you listen, it's a wonderful experience. So once you study this chapter, put this recording, either Anu's recording is there in the share drive, and the presentation, the Word document which is created by Swami Tadatmananda, that's a wonderful, each pada is broken out and the meaning is given in English. So that itself is a contemplation and meditation.
Is knowledge of Sanskrit a prerequisite though?
No, chanting, no, not at all. I don't think so, right? It is just...
No. Yes, but chanting, no, Sanskrit. I didn't have any prior knowledge of Sanskrit for learning this, but definitely the institution, the organization helped us in learning these verses correctly, and we have memorized all 700 shlokas, of Bhagavad Gita, and I'm enjoying it really more when I was chanting it now because of the meaning that you have explained it, Rajesh. So nice to chant knowing the meaning of it.
Yeah, that's what I was telling you also. Like earlier, when I was listening to you guys chanting for 3 hours continuously, it's a meditation. Like you just close your eyes and it just creates the energy, and the feeling it created was amazing. So
yeah, because you know all the meanings, so it was so nice for you. Without meaning also I was enjoying chanting it, but with knowing the meaning,
meaning gives a new dimension.
Yeah, exactly. With your explanation and examples and the details, it is awesome. Simply awesome.
Thank you. And so let's we'll plan that separately, and even children can learn, because this is not because this class I won't suggest for children, because the content we are not designed for children. It is totally different, but it is going to be really, really wonderful. Any other question on this topic? If any other questions are there, please post that on the WhatsApp group. And I'm glad that a lot of questions are coming. So we use this time, and even weekdays, couple of 30 minutes we dedicate for questions. It's so good to see that nowadays the questions are so much that we cannot finish that in classes. So that's really good. Questions indicates that people are contemplating upon it.
Rajesh ji, Sanjay, how do I find what is my dharma, right? I mean, like, so and it's very, very vast topic to talk about, but when I look at that, okay, we have 4 different categories in which when a kid is or when a baby is born in a family, whether it is Kshatriya, Brahman, and 2 other categories.
Yeah.
So one category is defining there that, okay, you have to follow that dharma.
Right.
But as you correctly said, that when a kid is born, you cannot say that, okay, he's going to follow this dharma. And for example, like if we look at Gautam Buddha,
Yep.
he was born as a Kshatriya, but he adopted ahimsa paramo dharma. So how do I define that? What is my dharma?
Yeah.
And follow it actually?
Yeah, that's a wonderful question. And it's not by birth, it's not by parentage, it is not by the place you are born, it is not by the color, nothing. So later in the Bhagavad Gita, it gives a lot of norms or tips for you to identify. But just to help you on the very high level, the dharma itself is categorized on a high level into 2. One is called Samanya Dharma and the Vishesha Dharma. Samanya Dharma means every human being has to follow that, no matter what, where exactly he is in, whether he is a student or a retired person, whether he is a earning person or non-earning person. It has to be done. So you have certain dharma towards the body, you have certain dharma towards your mind, you have certain dharma towards your other members of the community, because you don't want to hurt another person, right? Knowingly. You don't want to kill another person. You have to make sure that your words are not unnecessarily hurting. So there are certain things which you have to do. And there is a simple verse in Mahabharata where Vyasa defines that type of common dharma as: you don't want to do anything to others which you don't want from others. You cannot do anything to others which you don't want to get from others. That's the simple definition of dharma, samanya dharma. And then the Vishesha Dharma, it is means, for example, what type of temperament I have, right? So we'll have to wait till the 14th chapter to understand what type of temperament you have. So Krishna gives a wonderful dicing and dicing, right? The model we are following is a 3 categorization model called Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. So there are certain, actually we are building a questionnaire. Vikrant Singh Dhamar is doing that. We are building a questionnaire, like a survey, by filling which you will be able to get your basic temperament. So for example, like your temperament, is that completely externally going out, or is that extremely internally contemplative? To a certain thing, I can say is that without going through this excessive study, one simple definition of your guna identification is, one thing is common sense. So certain work when you do, right, you feel that it is not a work. You feel that I'm completely immersed in that. For example, if you're a programmer, Sanjay, if there are 2 possibilities that a person can end up in programming profession. One is what? Money. Second thing is what? You enjoy what you're doing. If you're ending up there for money, what means, how do you work? You just work for that money. You always see this as a burden, right? Monday morning you feel that syndrome. But if you really enjoy what is doing, you will be immersed in that, right? You will, and every programmer at times you remember, right? If you are a programmer, like you completely forget what you are doing and you are getting immersed in it. So if you are enjoying that profession, if you have that happiness, that unlimited contentment in that work, that means you can say that, yeah, the profession I have selected is in line with my mental temperament. So this is a simple test, but this is a intuitive understanding. But a scientific analysis is given on the 14th chapter, which we will talk later. But my point is, easily you come to know whatever you are doing. For example, then other than the Samanya Dharma, there is a role-specific Dharma. For example, you might be a dad. So definitely you have some responsibility to your children, right? To your spouse, to the community, to your parents, to the other means, as a citizen, you have some responsibility to the country. So what happens is, when you look, means there is a matrix you can create. So there are different roles you play, and each role demands certain dharma. And then you may have something called this mukhya dharma. What exactly is your predominant dharma? Means, for example, if you're a king or if you're a ruler of the country, your predominant dharma is that. So this is what we need to understand. What exactly is the difference between this mukhya dharma and what is gauna dharma? For example, your duty as a father and your duty as a professional, or your duty as a citizen. At a given point of time, what exactly is the mukhya dharma? And if these mukhya dharma and gauna dharma are contradicting, that is the problem. But if the mukhya dharma and gauna dharma is actually they are aligned, it's simple. It's not a problem. But there are times you can see that this mukhya dharma and gauna dharma contradicts. At that point of time, the scriptures are going to tell you that your mukhya dharma, follow it. So I know that it's a big answer. To summarize that, A, it is common sense. The common sense means you don't want to do anything to others which you don't want to expect from others. Point number one. Point number two, what exactly is my passion as far as the job is concerned to do something? So identify that. For example, if your passion is on singing, 100% is singing, right? So that means that is your Svadharma, that is your temperament. But sometimes what happens, let us be practical. So if you think that your passion is this and that passion do not have any future, so there are techniques by which you can identify, because that, for example, if you identify a career, your profession is your passion is on something where you do not have any future, then what you can do is you can pick up something which is as close as to your passion, because you don't want to select something which is totally contrary to your nature. I always think, like, if Sachin Tendulkar is given the responsibility of a flight simulator, what would be the case? You know the educational records of Sachin Tendulkar.
Yeah. True.
Failing, literally failing, right? In all the exam.
Yeah.
So imagine his parents had pressured him and put him into an engineering college. I know a music director who even supported us a couple of initiatives. His name is M. Jayachandran. His father was an engineer. He put him into electrical engineering by force. After the college, he never looked at that. So this is very important. A few intuitive understanding is good enough rather than a detailed analysis. Each one of us can, with this intuitive understanding and common sense, you can see, yeah, am I almost in my Svadharma? That's it.
Thank you, Rajesh.
Yeah,
But wait for 14th chapter. We are going to see a lot of dicing and slicing on this.
Sure. Rajesh, another quick question.
Yeah.
When we say that we have, I mean, it's a Kshatriya versus Brahmana versus Sudra. Can't a person be in different buckets for each of this dharma, or is it that a person is either a Kshatriya or is it
Wonderful question.
dharma? I could be in a different bucket, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can say that one person can be a combination of all these four. So this Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra is not a hardcore division at all, right? So a person can transform, that is number one. Number two is at a given time, one person, for example, as a dad, I'm a Kshatriya. And as a professional, I could be a Shudra. That is perfectly possible.
Okay. Yeah. So you could technically be in different buckets.
Of course, you can have multiple personalities.
Yeah.
So some people, right, they are extremely good in family. They are the nicest fellow. But if you go to the work, this fellow is the most dull person.
Yeah.
So with respect to the family, he is a Brahmana, right? With respect to a work, he is a Shudra. Again, that is possible. And the problem is, this is so much of abused by some people with vested interest. And this happened to be the name of a birth. It's never ever was the case, and it should not be like that. Probably I'm even thinking of renaming this to some other words, because these words are overused and abused.
No, I mean it's also a mechanism to really bucket your quantum of effort which you're doing. Like, I mean, it's the intensity of the effort which you're doing for each one of these, right? So you could be, as you're saying, a Shudra and doing, your work, and you could be in playing, you could be a Kshatriya. Like, it could differ, is what you're saying.
Yeah. So it's said that everybody is born as a Shudra because you don't know. Like, then when you develop yourself, you turn into a Brahmana, Kshatriya, or Vaishya, Shudra.
Okay.
So this is very important, and just keep that in mind. And I think one of the best description of the Svadharma I have seen is from Nataraja Guru. Last week also I talked about him extremely. So Nataraja Guru is a wonderful wonderful teacher of Bhagavad Gita. He condensed the teaching of the great master Sri Narayana Guru into the Bhagavad Gita commentary. And his analysis means I used that extremely in our discussion. So I was just following his style of explanation. Even outside of Shankara, I don't know whether it is it is fair to say that, but my feeling is that these 4 or 5 verses, his commentary exceeds even Shankara's commentary. That much in-depth analysis, especially this Nataraja Guru has done on this Svadharma. And the examples I have used is exactly his example. He was saying that typically you say that Aristotelian theory or the Western theory say that the goodness is absolute. Okay, if he is a good person, you can say that he demonstrates A, B, C, and quality. And Nataraja Guru was countering that argument. He said that how can you say that a soldier's goodness versus a priest's goodness? And he was quoting the example like an apple tree's greatness can be compared only by looking at the apple it produced, not the orange it produced. Brilliant, right? It's such an amazing analysis. Nataraja Guru himself was a PhD in physics, and he has a PhD in psychology. You can imagine his education. And he was a visiting faculty in almost all the major universities in the world. So, Vijay, I will send you his commentary on Gita, PDF. I'm sure you will enjoy it. Very recently, I started studying his commentary. And that introduced me to the work of Narayana Guru, Sri Narayana Guru. I really started today because earlier I studied it very high level. I will bring a couple of things. There is something he wrote called Vedanta Sutra. So the Brahma Sutra of Vyasa, what happened was this Brahma Sutra was interpreted by Shankara in Advaita Vedanta. Then actually Madhavacharya in Dvaita form and Ramanacharya in Vishishtadvaita form. So Narayana Guru, he condensed the whole teaching because Narayana Guru is an ardent follower of Advaita Vedanta. So he condensed this whole thing into around 34 sutras. Oh my God, such an amazing summary of Vedanta. So we'll study those things later. And then there is another book he has written called Darshana Mala. It's called A Garland of Vision. Unbelievable, like the clarity is fantastic. So we need to study all these things. Just think about the number of masters that the country has produced. It's amazing, from south to north, east to west. I'm sure every state had their own. Actually, they see all these masters as part of Shankara. So imagine a population of prophets. That's what we have.